Today, I want to talk about what actually kills a relationship and the combination of the factors that you might not even realize you're contributing to, even if you are with someone who has some toxic things going on. You might not realize the part you're playing, or you might not even realize some of these things as red flags. So, there's actually three things that I want to touch on, but it's the intermingling of those things that matters. Now, number one, this is the easiest one to talk about. This is when you have a spouse that seems selfish or lazy at home. So, they aren't pulling their weight, they aren't helping out, they aren't doing things around the house. And it's easy to point that out because it's an action move. And I get it because no one wants a partner that's not mutual, not willing to play their part and do their part. But there's a couple things you should look at in yourself. Why are you enabling this behavior by overfunctioning? Why are you continuing to do what they don't do? Why aren't you letting them suffer the consequences? Now, I know those consequences affect you too. And especially if you're dealing with kids, you can't just go, oh, they're not willing to do their part with the kids. I'm just going to leave the kids to fend for themselves. Now, that one obviously doesn't apply. But you do want to look at why you might be functioning the way that you do. Who in your life allowed someone else to be this way or to not carry weight, and what maybe you're patterning yourself after. Now, number two is sort of that weaponized incompetence and even learned helplessness. And that is one of those things where the partner is like, oh, I just don't know how. And you're so much better at it than me. And it'll take me forever. And there's sort of a guilt trip aspect to that. But again, you are overcompensating. It's like the little kid who can't tie his shoes and you just forever tie his shoes for him, and you never work on letting him practice tying his own shoes. You are enabling an incompetence in this child. One day they are going to need to know how to tie their shoes, and you've never taken the time to teach them or to let them struggle through it enough so that they can figure it out, because it made your life easier to just do it and move on. But you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot there, right? Now, this third category is actually the sort of cruel category. And even people who aren't just evil, awful people sometimes pair these behaviors with some of these others, and it makes a really toxic combination. But the more behaviors that they have out of this third category, the worse it's going to be. So, the bottom line of this third category is lack of empathy. This tends to lean toward feeling like your partner is really emotionally abusive or even cruel. They might gaslight you. They might twist the narrative, say things like that never happened. I never said that. You know, I didn't mean that. You're blowing this out of proportion, and make you start questioning your own reality. They might bully you into compliance. When you don't want to do things their way, they just go on and on and on and on until you get so exhausted that you finally just say, fine, let's do it. Okay, whatever. But they wear you out. And in that process, they often talk down to you, they can belittle you, they can underhandedly make comments that are about you being dumb or you being stupid, or even without using those words, right? Like, of course you wouldn't get it. I know you wouldn't know about this. This isn't your thing. And they're planting a seed of incompetence. And the better they know you, the more they can take advantage of your vulnerabilities, those areas where you don't feel confident, those areas where you are insecure, those areas where you are afraid of being judged, and they might use them against you. Now, from time to time, we might all do this in a defensive way to make ourselves feel better, make the other person feel smaller, even unconsciously. But there's one big key factor that sort of separates this toxic list of behaviors from a very dangerous type, and that is lack of integrity behind closed doors. So maybe it's four categories, but when someone lacks integrity behind closed doors, it means they don't care who they step on to get their way. Like, they don't care, they don't have compassion for the impact of their behavior on other people. And they're just willing to win at all cost. They completely lack empathy. And this happens a lot when you see sort of that narcissistic type of personality in business. They don't care who they step on. They don't care if they have a tenant that is struggling and poor and whatever. They'll break the rules. And I've seen this happen where they've got a vulnerable person, maybe that speaks broken English, and they're renting an apartment from this sort of narcissistic person. And something's going out in that apartment, like a fridge or an air conditioner or something. And they'll say, I'll, let you move in a little early if you take care of that. If you pay for that, like you can move in, a few days early. It's not a fair compensation, but they know the other person is vulnerable. They know the other person doesn't know their rights, and they're just lucky to find someone to rent to them. And so they will go above and beyond to pay out of their own pocket to improve this person's unit by buying this new thing on their own and not requiring the landlord to buy it. And when you see them do this kind of thing behind closed doors, and you realize, like, this isn't ethical. It's not legal. Like, that's your right. Their right is for you to replace that item. It's that kind of behavior. And they just go, it worked out for everybody. They got to move in. I got the thing fixed. They have this lack of empathy because they don't understand that even if they do understand, they don't care that their behavior is impacting someone else in a negative way. They don't care if they break the law. They don't care if someone gets hurt. They don't care about anyone but themselves. So when we talk about lack of empathy, that is this big issue that permeates all of the others. Just like when we're talking about like weaponized incompetence or this laziness, they don't care that their behavior is impacting the people in their life. And so these things can be present, but it's not necessarily malicious on every level. But it doesn't even matter because it will ruin and erode a relationship, regardless of whether or not it's truly malicious or not. So one thing to keep in mind is that all of these have one thing in common, and that they're operating from woundedness and fear. Now, those wounds and fears get put into their programming and into their psyche, into their subconscious at a really young age. And your subconscious mind is running over 95% of everything you think, feel, and do. So if you had parents that operated in this very defensive way, you mirror them. If you were wounded and created a belief around that, now you're going to feel that wound bigger when someone pokes at it. And so your reactions are going to be bigger. And as a hypnotherapist, this is why this work is so effective, because what I do with my clients is we go back on a subconscious level and reframe it subconsciously, because that subconscious is running the show. And so we have to realize that we are all operating from woundedness and fear in our dysfunction. And so if you're with someone with any of these things, you are also operating out of some kind of fear, some kind of woundedness, some kind of hope that you can change things and make it better. And you can rewrite the story from your childhood that didn't end well, and now you can create a happy ending. And you are never going to change someone else. So you've got to take ownership over the fact that you are participating in this relationship cycle. Because one thing that the toxic person and the other, well, you're both operating out of woundedness and fear. But if you've got a really dysfunctional person that is creating a lot of this, they are operating out of a narrative they've created in their mind based on their old programming. And it's also this victim mentality that they think they're doing XYZ, and they have a narrative about you not appreciating it or never being enough for you or whatever. Most of those stories started before they met you, but they still have sort of a victim mindset that they've tried everything and you didn't do your part. But you do too. You may have a victim mindset as well. I've tried and I've tried and I've done everything and I've explained and I've asked and they're still not doing this thing. You're staying stuck as well. And that's a really important piece that you've got to come to terms with. You are choosing to participate in a relationship where your focus is external on changing the other person, and changing how you show up and what you say and how you say it and what your timing is in order to contort the situation, to make it play out in a way that feels safe, instead of being honest about where you are, how you feel, what you need, what your boundaries are. And so your inability to express yourself freely, clearly, articulately, in a healthy way, your inability to hold boundaries, your inability to walk away, it's all mental. It's all subconscious. And there might be the sunk cost fallacy thing going on in your head where I've put in all this time and effort and I don't want to lose my investment. Or there might be the victim mentality in your mind too. Or even sort of the reckless hopelessness where you go, I can fix this. I have to fix this. I can figure it out. All of these are self-betrayal things that you're doing. So it's time to pause and ask yourself, do you want to continue feeling like you're feeling? Do you want to continue moving the direction you're moving? Do you want to continue in this unspoken agreement to play this role in your relationship? Because you don't have to leave a relationship to change the dynamic. Sometimes you should leave. Other times you don't have to leave, but you do have to do the work yourself. And it's not going to happen with your willpower. Willpower is not strong. It's not strong enough to break into our subconscious programming. And our subconscious programming is running the show. So what I see with my clients is even after the first session, they are getting so much more clarity. But once they're done with the process of the layers we go through to reframe that subconscious programming, they are feeling confident. They are feeling empowered. They're feeling clear about who they are, what they need, how to communicate without that overwhelming, crippling fear of rejection. And they're no longer avoiding the discomfort of creating change. And when you step into that, you change the whole dynamic of how the relationship functions. And the other person is either going to step up to the plate and start showing up differently, or they're going to hate the whole thing and they're going to go the other way. But either way, you are no longer betraying yourself in the process. And that's the really important piece. So if you haven't been here before, I'm Keetra Thompson. I'm a certified master hypnotist and a relationship attachment style coach, and really focusing on midlife, because in midlife, all of these things are boiling up to the surface. All these things we used to do to cope and get through our day and just deal with our relationships, they don't work anymore because we are at capacity. And it's very important that we do something strategic about it, especially by the time we get to midlife, which honestly is anywhere from 35 to 55. And so if you'd like to learn more, if you'd like to get some clarity about your situation and find out what my recommendation would be with zero obligation, you can set up that consultation call at the description in the description below, and we can chat. And there's no obligation to you and there's no cost to you, but it will help you get clarity and it will help you have a better understanding about what's going on specifically inside of you, because every person's journey is unique. And so, as always, I hope you take a moment to reflect on yourself and what's going on, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and what you're sick and tired of doing so that you can make a decision about how you want to move forward. And until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.